missing any further coming videos. Just a reminder before I start that because this is true crime, it is not suitable for children under the age of 14. So, tonight is going to be the story of a murderer who murdered himself. His name is Bruce Lindhal. He's a serial killer and a rapist. He was born in 1953 in Illinois, and he comes from a family of 4 children. In the 70s, he graduated with a degree in electromechanics. He enjoyed skydiving and racquetball. He was described as a pleasant man, although sometimes a bit impulsive and occasionally aggressive towards others. In 1976, he was arrested a few times for minor offences. He was once in possession of marijuana. He started moving quite a bit from place to place and lived in different neighborhoods of Chicago. And then in the city of Aurora in 1978. On the 6th of March 1979, he pretended he was selling marijuana to a 20-year-old woman. She was named Annette Lazar. He brought her into his home and he threatened her with a gun and raped her. He accepted later on to release her, but under the condition that she would continue to have sexual relations with him. Annette accepted and tried to convince him that she found him attractive, and even wrote down his phone number and said she would be in contact with him. She said she would be happy to become his girlfriend once he would release her. As soon as he let her go, she went right to the hospital to get proof that she had been raped. She then went to the police station, but police officers did not believe her. For them, she was just a lying drug addict. Bruce's landlord was a policeman and also a friend of his. Annette had marks on her neck and a red mark on the side of her head from where he had pressed a gun against her. But still, she was not believed, and Bruce got off without any charges. But her testimony being rejected might have actually saved her life. On the 23rd of June 1980, Bruce Lindhal sees a young woman next to a bicycle in a parking lot. Her name is Deborah Colliander and she is 25. He decides to kidnap her and he takes her back to his place. At that point, he was now the owner of his house and he lived on his own. He raped the woman and then fell asleep. She managed to escape and she ran out of the house naked, and she bumped into one of the neighbors and told her the whole story. She said that been raped and that he had been taking photos of her. The neighbor gave her some clothes and called the police immediately. This time the police took the case seriously and arrested Bruce Lindhal. The officer who was in patrol in that area at that moment was no other than his ex-landlord and friend. Nevertheless, he was arrested, but he just then paid his bail and was released. The trial was to take place in 1981, but it was cancelled as the key witness, Deborah Colliander, mysteriously went missing on the 7th of October after leaving her job. All charges against Bruce were dropped. Not long after that, Bruce attacked a 30-year-old woman. He had offered her some money in exchange for sexual services, and she had refused. He started hitting her, but as there were several witnesses, he left the scene and the woman went to the police. Several pictures of sex offenders were showed to her, but Bruce was not in the police's files, and the woman pointed to a man who vaguely looked like Bruce. Once again, he had got away with it. 1 month later, he was arrested for extortion, and during his arrest in January 1981, he attacked one of the police officers and pointed his gun towards him. He was charged with resisting arrest, illegal possession of weapons, and assault, and once again was released on bail. One day he was driving his car and was pulled over by the police for a routine check. The police noticed there was a woman in his car, and she was unconscious, and she was bleeding heavily from her head. Bruce said that he was on the way to take her to the hospital, although he wasn't driving in the right direction. An ambulance came straight away and took the young woman to the emergencies. When doctors examined her, they found that she had been sexually assaulted. The woman couldn't remember anything that had happened to her. The only thing she could remember was that she was at a party with Bruce, and he had given her a sip of something to drink, and then she could not recall of any detail. No charges were ever filed. If the police wasn't going to stop him, then who was? Maybe karma. On the 4th of April 1981, Bruce was driving around a shopping area and he met an 18-year-old boy named Charles Huber. They went bowling together, and after that he suggested that they would go back to his girlfriend's place to get drunk, and the young man accepted. Back at the house during the evening, they started to get into an argument, and Bruce pulled out a knife and he started stabbing him, not once, not twice, but 28 times. To Bruce's surprise, Charles was fighting back pretty hard, and during the fight, Bruce accidentally stabbed himself in the thigh. His knife sank into his thigh and cut his artery. He started bleeding heavily. Charles was dead, and Bruce was losing all of his blood. Within minutes, Bruce died. When the femoral artery is cut, a person will go unconscious within 30 seconds to 1 minute, and it will take as little as 3 minutes to die. His girlfriend found the two bodies when she got home the next morning and called the police, who first thought that somebody had broken in and killed the two men. But after the autopsy, they found out that it was Bruce who had killed Charles and who had accidentally killed himself. Police officers started to wonder if Bruce Lindhal might have anything to do with any other crimes, and they went searching his home, where they found many pictures of young women. Amongst them was the picture of 16-year-old Deborah McCall, who had gone missing in November 1979. Investigators suspect that Lindhal has something to do with his disappearance, but her body has never been found. In 1982, the decomposed body of Deborah Colliander, who had been missing since 1980, was found. A man confessed to the police shortly after that he had been offered to be paid by Lindhal to kill the young woman, but that he had refused. And obviously Bruce had found a way to get what he wanted. But the story doesn't end there. In 1993, the case of